Hey guys, let's do some colouring today. So I've seen all over my socials this craze that is going around at the moment. I'm actually a little bit late to the party. Well, not actually, because I used to colour many years ago. I used to make cards and I used to stamp or print my own images for my greeting cards and of course colour them in. And oh, it's so much fun, it's so relaxing. You can really sort of design patterns and add all these little extra details to the images. Honestly, it's so much fun. If you haven't tried it, please do. My personal favourite alcohol markers are Pro markers, but you can get cheaper ones on the market. You can get some free printables on the Coco Wyo website. So I printed these out, one big image, and I've done two smaller ones. I laid these out using Canva before I printed them, and as you can see, I've added a happy birthday sentiment because I thought it would be a great idea to make these into a card. I see so many people spending all this time making these gorgeous pictures and they just stay in the colouring book. So I thought I need to make one into a card so I can gift it to someone. So that is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to mark out a tile pattern, so going with the direction of the already sort of tiles on there, on that border at the bottom, as you can see. So I'm penciling out a rough guide of where my tiles will be. Again, I'm using the lines already on there with the tile along the bottom border to line these up. So as you can see, there's a line there. I'm lining up my tiles. Always do it in pencil first, don't go in with pen in case you need to rub anything out. And then you need to decide where your light source is going to be coming from. So my light source is going to be coming from the top left hand side. So all of the highlights will be in the top left and all of the shadows will be in the bottom right of my image. So I'm using this lovely rose pink colour and I'm filling in my tiles now, but as you can see, I'm leaving the top left corner unshaded because that is where I'm going to add my highlight. And then once you've done that and let the pen dry, you can layer these Pro markers up, or any alcohol pens, you can tend to sort of layer them up to create your shadows. So I'm going around all the bottom right corner of my tiles to create a shadow, and I'm also going around like the shelves, the little products, anywhere that would be creating a shadow on the wall, remembering where my light source is coming from. So all of the shadows need to be in the bottom right hand side. And then I'm going in with this pale pink colour and I'm going over those gaps that I missed to create my highlights. This really makes the tiles pop. Taking a white gel pen, going over the pencil line, so this creates like a grout effect. You could use black or white, it doesn't matter what colour you want your grout. I'm doing mine white because as you can see, it just really finishes off that look. Taking my pastel beige now to colour in my shower curtain. And then using the pastel beige on the towels also to make them all match. And then this lovely bright cerise pink, I'm going to colour in the flowers on the shower curtain. And also the little trims on the towels, the flower, and the little towel on the little kitty's head. And then taking my pale pink, I'm just going to go over to create some highlights. And now back in with the pastel beige because I realise there's a couple of towels on the shelf also. And then I'm going over the shower curtain. Now that pen has dried, we can double layer it just to create some shading. So building up that colour where the shadows would be. Taking the cerise pink again, I've decided to add some little flowers to the towel that's hanging over the bath. And then we're going to add some spots to the towel that's hanging. And then also the towels on the shelf will have one with spots and one with flowers again. I'm going to be using Warm Grey 3 on my hippo. This looks quite dark, but it does lighten up quite a bit once it dries. I apologise for all of the noisy aircraft in the background. It seems the Air Force were doing a lot of practice today. Next, taking Warm Grey 5, which is a couple of shades darker, to create our shadows. So remember, the light is coming from the top left, so we're doing our shadowing more towards the right and around the little cucumbers on his eyes, or her eyes. Back in with the lighter colour just to blend out that shadowing. And then I decided to go over the whole hippo again. And then when this dries, it will all tie in. Taking Ice Grey 1 now, which is a real pale grey, I'm going to colour in the bathtub. And then I'm going to take a couple of shades darker, so Ice Grey 3, and I'm going to again add my shadows, keeping it around the bottom, around the little objects, and a little bit around the left side. And then back to the Ice Grey 1 to colour in the little kitty's bathtub and the shower head. And the little hanging rail at the back, the towel rail. And then the Ice Grey 3 again to add our shadows. I took the cerise pink here and coloured in the little flowers on the tile border along the bottom, and then I took 3 shades of brown to colour in the kitty, a lighter one which I went over first, that was tan, and then I went in with raw sienna to shade, and then I tried to use cinnamon to make little patches on the kitty, but that was too light, so you'll notice that I end up changing it for a darker brown which was called Cocoa. It looks all quite dark here, you can't really see the patches, but it does dry and look really cute when it's finished. For the water in the bathtubs, I'm using this tea green. This is a real pale sort of bluey green colour. It dries really light. I used the colours yellow and sunflower on the little duck. And then I used a little bit of mandarin to create a little beak. I'm using magenta now on the brush and some of the details on the accessories. Meadow green is what I'm using on the cucumbers because it's sort of a nice sort of pale minty green, and then leaf green just to shade around the sides. And then I used poppy to colour in my strawberries, and they've got little leaves on. It's hard to see because they're so small, but I used leaf green again to colour in the leaves on the strawberries. I'm using Arctic blue to colour in the bar of soap and the bowl, and also the little straw in the drink. I'm using raw sienna to colour in the drinks. It's sort of an orangey brown. It could be like an iced coffee or a frap maybe. And then cinnamon on the shelves. I'm going to create a wood effect here. I also coloured around the little shelf across the bath and also the floor. All of these are going to be wood effect. And then I remembered I had to colour the soap dish, so I decided to make that ice grey, and then the Ice Grey 3 again for the shadows. And then back to the pastel beige again, this time to colour the top of the little bath tray, And I also went back over my towels to add some shadowing. And then I created some fur on the slippers using a black pen. I'm using sandstone to colour in the slippers, ivory to colour in the fur, and then I'll go back in with the sandstone to create my shadows on my slippers. And then I decided to put a little UGG logo on there. Taking a dark brown now. This is called burnt umber, and as you can see I've added an extension tip. This is a real fine liner tip that you can get for the pro markers. So by doing this I can create some little squiggly lines, and this gives it a wood effect. I love doing this, this is so effective. And also on the floor. And then once that is all dried in, going back to the original colour, which is the cinnamon, and go over it all again just to help those lines blend in. You don't have to do this, but I just felt I needed to go over it because those lines were quite sort of apparent. I'm using warm grey 3 on the bathtub feet, and then warm grey 5 to create my shadows. And then I go all over them again with the lighter grey to help blend the shadows all in. And then I'm taking Buttercup now to colour in this soap in this bottle here. I took a darker yellow and drew some little lemons on the label, and then I just took some green to colour around the label. I won't bother going through all the colours for the rest. I just took some different colours, greens and blues, just to colour in all the little accessories on the shelf. I also end up creating some lovely bubbles for the bathtub, but we need to do those last because they are going to be floating up through the bathroom, so we need all the colouring underneath. So make sure you get all of the colouring done before we do the bubbles. On the clothing in the basket I created a gingham effect, but I forgot to record it. But basically I used 2 shades of blue. You go over with the lighter blue first and then just draw some crisscrosses on the top with a darker blue. So it's quite simple to do. I'm colouring the basket now, and I also add some shading and highlight into this basket to finish it off. Taking the tea green to shade the toilet roll, and then back in with my cinnamon to shade, to create the shadow, on the flooring and the shelves. Now that's all dry. And next I'm going to take my white gel pen, and this is the fun part. I really like doing this. We're going to create all of our highlights, so I like to do some lines on the glass to make it give a sort of a reflective glass effect. And then just adding any lines and dashes to anywhere you think that light would be bouncing off. This just really makes everything pop and stand out. I love doing this. And then we'll have the whole picture then finished, ready to create our lovely bubbles. I also added to my gingham here by adding some more stripes on there. And of course we mustn't forget our tiles, so all of the top left corner of the tiles I added a little highlight to. I'm using some rose pink to shadow my sentiment to make it all tie in. Now to create the bubbles I used Cool Aqua, Orchid and Buttercup, which are basically a pale blue, a lilac and a lemon. Using the blue, we're going to create the bottom and left side of the bubble. And then using lilac, we're going to create the bottom and right side of the bubble. It don't matter if there's a little gap in the middle or you fill it in. You don't have to be precise. And then taking the final colour, which is my lemon, or you can use a pale pink, it depends what colour you want your bubble to be. But lemon makes them sort of nice and bright, and just go over the top and the middle of the bubble. And then using a clear blender pen, go over the whole of the bubble just to blend all of those colours in and give it a transparent look. And then just to show you, you don't have to just keep the bubbles in the bathtub, you can also go over the side of the bath. We will also create some floating bubbles later on as well. So I'm just filling my bathtub first of all. As you can see, I created a little overspill of bubbles coming down the side of the bath. As I said earlier, it's important to get your whole image coloured before you add the bubbles, because as you can see, I'm now doing some little floating bubbles. And now the finishing touch, so taking the white gel pen, going around the whole outside of the bubble, and then adding a little line and a dash as the reflection on the bubbles. So this really does make them appear to be transparent and just floating around. Aren't they cute? I love doing these. And then I just draw some tiny little circles all in between the bubbles just to fill it all out, so it looks like he's got a real good bubble bath going on there. And here it is, that cute little image, all coloured, ready to attach to a greeting card for someone else to enjoy. I will do a tutorial next time showing how to make the card. Bye!